Welcome to the Thumbprint Project Foundation's docu-series, Childhood Domestic Violence, The Hidden Public Crisis. I'm Drew Schlossberg of Cloudcast Media, and we're thrilled to have in the studio with us today Rick Castro. He's the Detective Sergeant for the Domestic Violence Unit of the San Diego Police Department, and retired Sheriff's Captain Ed Musgrove. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Very good. Ed, 25 years with the Sheriff's Department, Army veteran. Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank
Talk
you.
a little bit about your background.
Well, Drew, I'm a California native, which it seems as time goes on, harder and harder to find. Born in Sacramento, raised in San Diego, graduated Poway High School, left for the service, came back after 7 years to a job with the Sheriff's Department, where I spent just a little over 25 years. A great variety of assignments, working, of course, in the detentions like a lot of deputies, patrol, traffic, investigations, different areas of supervision, had my own station. I had the Santee station for 2 years, ran the personnel division for a year. And when I retired, I had a couple of other jobs that took me away from what I consider to be my passion right now, and that is service to the community where I live in San Marcos. So I volunteer time with several of our civic groups. I spent 4 years on the city's traffic commission, and I'm currently a city planning commissioner, and I still teach at the Palomar College Police Academy. Enjoy it very much.
No, that's a great, long history of working, doing great work in the community in San Diego County. We're very much appreciative of it.
Thank you.
Rick, 32 years with the San Diego Police Department, almost 7 with the domestic violence unit. Talk about your background.
Well, I spent most of my career, 13 years as a field training officer on patrol and became a community relations officer. I worked in a pretty diverse neighborhood down in the mid-city area where I worked mostly with minority groups, especially the Somali and Ethiopian communities that started coming in. And then I worked patrol. I got promoted and moved on to the Western Division, where I worked at Ocean Beach, which is definitely a different community versus the community I grew up in patrol at. I ran a street crimes unit, which was a unit that's focused mostly on violent crimes. And then I ended up with the domestic violence unit. I've been with them for 7 years in October. It's been a great experience.
You know, before we go more into the interview, I wanted you folks to take a listen to a family domestic disturbance call, okay?
Definitely.
San Diego emergency? What's the San Diego emergency?
My mommy and Dad are having a fight.
Is he hitting her?
What? I'm talking to the police, Mommy. Stop it! Mommy! Stop it! Don't take the baby! Stop it! You're gonna hurt the baby! Stop it! Could you just send the police, please?
Okay, we're going to be there. Who's taking your baby?
Stop it! No! Drea, shut up!
Let me talk to you. Where's your mom?
What?
What's going on?
They're having a fight because this has been going on forever and ever. They always have this because he has a cousin. He's always drinking beer and getting drunk. He made his money.
Okay, don't cry. We're going to send the police.
Okay.
Okay, now where's your mother at right now?
She's in the room fighting with them.
Does you have a little baby sister?
No, I got baby brother.
Is he trying to take your baby brother?
Baby.
And he's trying to take your baby?
Yeah, because Mama's not drunk. He thinks he's drunk because he can't say nothing because he's drunk. My daddy's drunk.
Are they in a room fighting? Where are they at now?
They're in the room still.
They're in the bedroom?
Yeah, I don't want him to do nothing strange with the baby because if they drop, he's a newborn baby. He's very delicate.
What do you mean do anything strange? What do you think he's going to do to your baby?
I think he's going to take the baby and do something because he's drunk. He might not see the baby and go off without the baby if he takes it.
How old are you?
I'm 6 and my little sister's 4. And he just knocked my sister out.
What sister that he knocked out?
My little sister.
Your
The 4-year-old.
What-
Oh my God.
What's the matter?
Something happened. Just please send the police. Wait, I want to go see what happened, please.
Okay, the police are on their way, okay? Hold on.
The police are coming.
Is your Hello? Shit.
Wow. If that doesn't give you chills, nothing will. I'll start with you on this. Ed, how do you handle a call like that?
So it's interesting. The radio traffic comes across to our dispatchers. In the car, you're going to get their interpretation of what happened, and so they will break it down to you as much as possible. So you're really going into an unknown with a child calling. That takes a lot. So, and some of the words that child used suggest that there's a history, and that they have come to almost accept that as a situation that occurs in their home. But what you don't know is the volatility and the frequency. So you are going into an unknown, and it's extremely perilous for everyone. You want to get there and calm it as much as possible, but you have to really be aware of the situation as an assessment as you arrive, and ideally your dispatcher will be able to give you more information. But in this case, when you had the child making the call, it's very difficult. That may be all you have.
Right. And so with Rick, are you able to track the call? Do we know where that's coming from? Do you know where the house is coming from?
With the 911 system, yes, the call would come up automatically on their dispatch screen, but you can hear the pain in that child's voice, and that's something that, as a patrol officer responding to that scene, we wouldn't get that until we showed up. Like Ed was saying, it is very volatile and unknown. The unknown that you're walking into. That child is describing something that is horrendous to her, and it's affecting her and her little sister. We are walking into something that we don't know what we'll find, what kind of blow up will occur.
Right. And of course, you both have had experience in this of knowing what to do to not agitate the situation, obviously, in this. And those things can spiral very quickly out of control. Correct, Ed?
That's correct. I did a lot of my investigative time at one of our major stations before the Sheriff's Department formed a permanent domestic violence unit. So they were dispatched randomly to patrol units on the beat. And, if you're not working them on a regular basis, you're just kind of catching them between calls and hoping to get through it without anybody being hurt. And as Rick said, with the child, it's all the more critical because now you have an innocent that's found themselves caught in the middle of it, but felt compelled to make a phone call. It's very tough.
Right, exactly. So Rick, obviously, when it involves children, heartbreaking involves anyone for that matter, but especially with children in a case like this. When do you get other agencies involved?
With this kind of call, just the sound of it, obviously we weren't there, but I can imagine that our patrol officers would have to call Child Welfare Services. We're mandatory reporters because, at the time that this is going on, and even it's probably been going on for years, that little child has gotten an impression of domestic violence as something that could be a norm for her, or it could be something that she'll have PTSD over. We need to somehow get to that child before it becomes part of her psyche. She's going to be scarred for a long time, and CWS needs to step in right away and get her an advocate, get her somebody. We need to save that child.
Yeah, without question. And as you had alluded to, when you have just one incident of that thing doesn't go away after 2 weeks, 2 years, or whatever. That's going to be with you for a while. Ed, obviously domestic violence calls like that, or domestic violence in general, is not just a sheriff's issue. It's a societal issue. What advice can you give, or what do you think can help, with this issue in trying to reduce the amount of domestic violence that happens in our communities?
Well, there's a lot of environmental factors that come into play. Right now, we're in an extreme situation with the lockdowns as they are kind of ebbing and flowing, the economy kind of it's on the rebound now, but it is not where it used to be. There's an education process that comes in, and that really needs to be emphasized, I think, on a greater level within the communities. It's law enforcement and the entire justice system work extremely hard to get that done, but that's usually after the fact. It really needs to be instilled beforehand. And the communities, I think, need to play a bigger role in getting that information out and offering that to the community, their members.
We are chatting with Ed Musgrove. He is a retired sheriff's captain, joined by a colleague of his, so to speak, Rick Castro from the Domestic Violence Unit, the Detective Sergeant of the San Diego Police Department. You know, Rick, as we know, there's a cycle of domestic violence, and I think Ed was sort of alluding to it as well. In this COVID era, makes it a little more difficult because people are at home, and now those perpetrators are with the folks that they are committing this violence, whether it's children or whether it's a spouse or whatever the case may be. Does that raise the bar and keep your tentacles up a little higher?
You know, when the COVID thing started, it was interesting. The stats went down initially because there was a lot of factors involved, but they're starting to come up again. We've seen an increase. We were just talking about it this morning, an increase of 15% in the number of cases that are coming in. It started in August, the beginning of August. And we're noticing that there's a lot of alcohol involved. I issued out cases today, and I think of the 32 cases that I issued out, 16 of them were alcohol related. And I don't know, just reading through it, there's a lot of tension that has gone on. And this is just anecdotal things that I read today. There's a lot of tension going on with bills, alcohol's being used to get away from what's going on. And then it comes, just one report I read where they were arguing over their financial situation, but they spent money on alcohol, and both of them just blew up. And one ended up in the hospital, and one ended up in jail.
You know, and it's interesting you bring that up, that, you know, now with COVID, I mean, San Diego, Ed and Rick, is not the cheapest place to live. Okay. There's already stress on the fact of, you know, economics. Now you got COVID, where some people have been furloughed or laid off. Okay. No place to turn except their home and all that business. So we certainly know that's quite an issue. You know, going back to the call that you just heard, and I'll start with you on this, Ed. What do you say to a child that is facing this?
As a responder, or if we had the liberty to say what we wanted to say?
Both.
As a responder, your certainly your primary goal is to safeguard everyone. Certainly, the child will. When you get there, you represent what they wanted, which was somebody to intervene. But sadly, sometimes that environment in which you're living has become their sense of normality. It's the make them stop and then you can leave. But we know that's not the complete answer. So the intervention that law enforcement is obligated to take then sometimes runs against what that child wants. So now you become, instead of the savior, now you become part of the problem because you're going to impact my parents. I just wanted you to make them stop. And that really is not the solution. And, you know, we were talking a second ago what Rick said about COVID and the impacts when you have traditionally a certain percentage of the calls we would go to, you would get there and one half would be gone. Well, now there's nowhere to go. They can't go to the corner bar, which could be a problem in and of itself.
Right.
So I wonder if, as these reporting numbers go up and down, is it because people are not able to make those calls?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of factors going in on that. And Rick, same thing. Have you had to chat with the kids about this too?
You know, that child on the call, that's someone that you'd like to pick up and hold and tell them that it's going to be okay. You're safe. But at the same time, you want to tell them that the actions you're about to take, like taking dad to jail or mom to jail, you're going to remove a parent, and you want to tell them it's better for you in the long run that we do this. They're not going to understand that, and they don't, because we've taken parents out, and kids are grabbing onto you little 5-year-olds that don't understand, where are you taking daddy? Where are you going to take him to? Why? And you want to hold that kid and tell him, I'm trying to make sure that you don't suffer from this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to save your life.
Yeah. So I got to ask you this. We're chatting with Rick Castro. He's the sergeant, from the San Diego Police Department Domestic Violence Unit, joined by Ed Musgrove, a retired sheriff's captain after 25 years. How do you, I'll start with you on this, Ed. How do you not get your emotions involved in this?
You really do have to somewhat disassociate yourself, and it's not a perfect world, but always keeping in mind that you have your primary obligation is the safety and safeguard. First of all, with a child, they are the innocents, and then trying to tease apart the situation between the parents or whatever the domestic relationship happens to be. It's extremely difficult because everything that law enforcement, everything we do in life, we try and relate it back to our own position, and that's difficult. And you know that you are ultimately going to leave, but there will be other issues that are left behind when you go, and that's tough.
Right. Rick, like Ed, you've got children, okay? And then you go into a domestic violence situation and there's somebody perpetrating something on someone who may be your kid's age or whatever the case may be. It must take an amazing amount of restraint.
It does. And I think back of the times that I've been to these calls. I've still gone out in the field, and it takes a lot out of you, actually, to be that fact finder and not that emotional person that's supposed to care for everybody in that room, including the person that's the perpetrator. But you have to shield everything out, close everything off, your human emotion, and be the fact finder that the law requires you to be. Your job requires you to gather information that will basically convict or help a relationship, hopefully, stop the violence, and that's what we're there for. An interesting statistic that I wanted to bring up.
Please.
In 1985, the city of San Diego had 800,000 people, a population of 800,000. We had 36 domestic violence homicides in the city. When the departments, our county, started the domestic violence protocol, to me, we save lives. What cops do when they respond to these calls out in our areas is we save lives, and that is proven by the fact that in 1985, with 800,000 people, 36 homicides, we're now in 2020 with 1.4 million people. Do you know how many homicides we've had for domestic violence in this up to this month?
No.
2.
Wow.
In 2019, the number was 6. So statistically, our role in saving lives, at least in the domestic violence realm, is critical. One of the points that I always bring up is that the 6 from 2019, none of the victims of those calls ever reached out for help. I remember interviewing a family after a tragic incident, and they all said, we should have called the cops. And maybe if they had, the tragedy wouldn't have occurred. But that's something that people need to understand, that something like that has to be stopped in the beginning.
Without question. Ed, on your storied career as a sheriff's captain and a sheriff's deputy, do you have a certain story or one incident that makes you so proud during your career? It really sort of shines.
Well, actually, quite a few.
Yeah.
Speaking about with the children, an incident where we ultimately did have to separate a child from the family.
Yeah.
And so the justice system took over with the parents, and it can be a tough call on who's going to jail. Is anyone going to jail? But the child ultimately is better for it, was moved into temporarily with other family members. And that in itself can be another issue to delve into. But it was a better environment for them. And with that good nurturing, we ended up seeing over the course of a few years that child was doing extremely well. Because as Rick said, you try and divest yourself personally, but you do have that. And if it's on your beat, you become aware of what's going on, and then you see them, and you run into them on occasion, and you check in to see how they're doing because you do care, and you want to maintain that human aspect of it.
Absolutely. How about you, Rick? Do you have a story that just jumps out at you?
Like I said, there's so many, but one in particular that I remember was a Thanksgiving, 1996 or 95. We got a call for usual Thanksgiving Day. We're working. My partner and I working day watch, and we had a call of a 450 fight, a domestic fight, kind of like same like that. When we got there, we found that the couple, the wife had gotten angry at her boyfriend and hit him over the head with the cooked turkey. He had burns on himself. In the house were these two little girls, and they were really devastated by that. We had to arrest their mom, and he was not their biological father. In fact, the biological father was not in the picture. We took the mom to jail. My partner and I went back. We had called a family friend to come and take care of them. We went back and we actually went to Denny's and got dinner for them. But those two little girls, my partner and I, we worked in that neighborhood for about 5 more years. We watched them grow up. Every time they needed something, nice, we would go and donate. We helped them out. We bought them a Christmas tree, some gifts. And we watched the oldest one graduate from Hoover High School. When did she graduate? 2000. When she finally graduated.
So you tell those stories, and Ed, I'm sure you got a whole boatload of those as well. And the impact that you and your partner had with those two girls will be them forever, not only enhancing their lives, but everybody else that they touch as well. I want to conclude with a question to both of you on this that I think is very, very important. And that is, and I'll start with you on this, Ed, what can our citizens do, our listeners do, viewers do to support your efforts as you work on domestic violence?
I think the most important thing they could do is have a sense of awareness. Don't be afraid to make the call. Like Rick said, we'll go to calls, and after the fact, people will come forward, neighbors, sometimes other family members, and telling us about events that happened in the past, or they've heard arguments, but it's none of their business. And we're not looking for people to be, a quasi police force, but I think we're all aware of situations that might be getting out of hand, and it's not an inconvenience to make that phone call. If all we do is go there and make those people aware that their situation is now attracting attention, that could be all we need to do to diffuse any further problems. But it also gives us an opportunity to look and see what's going on, and especially if there were children in the home, the condition of the children, the home, a sense of whether or not they're being cared for properly, and then we can do the follow-up on that.
Right. Rick?
Domestic violence is everywhere. It's not just, that isolated incident. That call that you make to us is going to save lives. And that call you make to us is going to get us into a home that needs help. We'll save children by doing that, because every home will have, and most homes will have a child with domestic violence. We want to get in there early so that we can actually remove that child from that situation and get the parents some education. We're not there to break up families. We're there to provide safety for children and for the victim, and hopefully provide some guidance to the perpetrator. We're not there to. Jail is not the end all for domestic violence, but it certainly is a way for them to cool off. Society needs to step in and say, it's got to stop. You need to have a voice, and you need to get out there and ensure that everybody's safe. The only way to do that is to call. You see something, you hear something, report it. It has to be. We have to get in there.
Right.
The government has to get in there.
Yeah, without question. Well, Rick Castro, Detective Sergeant for the San Diego Police Department's Domestic Violence Unit, thank you so much for joining us today. Ed Musgrove, 25-year great career as a sheriff's captain and a deputy and an Army veteran. Again, thank you for your service. Can't thank you enough for what you're doing to keep us safe and healthy in this region. And plaudits go to you and all the folks that you work with. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Drew.
You bet. I'm Drew Schlossberg of Cloudcast Media, and you've been listening to another episode of the Thumbprint Project Foundation's docuseries, Childhood Domestic Violence, The Hidden Public Crisis.